And the more trapped I became, the more I felt like I was just going to be a slave for the rest of my life. There was no getting out. Towards the end, he was threatening to kill me and the kids.
Many victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking live in fear of the person who harmed them, and having a place that they can live and know that their address will be completely confidential gives them such a sense of peace.
We never know who's been victimized, so we want to be careful about what we say, the language we use. Victims of trauma experience a profound change in not only their physiology and their nervous systems, but also their worldview. And so they need our compassion and our kindness and our patience.
Often, people are asked for an address to complete routine tasks, to open a bank account, get a cell phone, make purchases, receive medical care, and more.
Do you have your driver's license with the current address on it today? These are the forms that you'll use, and up at the top of all of the forms will be your name and your address.
Looks like everything's here except I see your address is missing.
Some people need to have their address kept confidential for safety reasons. Survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking. The Montana Department of Justice designed the Address Confidentiality Program, ACP, in 2006 to help protect residents of Montana who are survivors of these crimes. The program is administered by the Montana Attorney General's Office.
The Address Confidentiality Program is one of the services that the Office of Victim Services provide for residents of Montana. It's a resource that survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking can use in order to keep their actual physical address secure and safe.
Montana law dictates that state and local government agencies are required to accept the ACP address, which is a substitute for the participant's home address, when they require an address to be collected. It's really difficult to keep a home address confidential these days, but ACP is a good tool to be able to use to do that. If a participant applies for our program, I believe that a home address can be protected from being sought and found by an abuser.
The only people who know an ACP participant's home address should be the applicant, any co-applicants like children or a spouse, and ACP staff. The purpose of the Address Confidentiality Program is to give a survivor an address to use when seeking services from state or local government agencies. Many private businesses are also willing to accept this substitute address when the ACP participant is a customer. To enroll, an ACP application and checklist must be completed and submitted along with proof of eligibility, like a protection order or a law enforcement report, and proof of Montana residency. Once the application package is complete, it should be mailed to the Office of Victim Services. Once the application is received, ACP staff will review it. If all necessary documents are received, the ACP application will be approved, and an ACP card will be issued to the applicant. Montana ACP has two components. First, an ACP applicant is issued a substitute address to use instead of their home address when interacting with state or local government. The second component is that ACP receives first-class mail on behalf of participants. ACP staff sorts and repackages unopened mail and forwards it to the participant at a safe place of their choosing. ACP will send mail to a home, post office box, or any other address specified by the participant. The goal of Montana's Address Confidentiality Program is to help survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking to stay safe from further harm or abuse. The ACP card with a substitute address can be used to get a driver's license, register to vote, access public benefits like the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, TANF, and Medicaid. seek assistance from the Child Support Enforcement Division, register a vehicle, and more. Using the substitute address minimizes the likelihood of a participant being found by an abuser and re-assaulted. If you're presented with a card that indicates the person you're serving is enrolled in the Address Confidentiality Program, please be discreet and recognize that this person or an immediate family member may have been the victim of traumatic physical or psychological abuse.
Trauma is deeply complicated and manifests differently for different people. When you're interacting with survivors, it's really important to avoid the best you can re-victimizing them or re-traumatizing them through the interactions. And you can do that in part by not asking questions that are too invasive, by respecting their boundaries, and by being as respectful as possible.
Trauma can affect a person on a number of levels: personally, interpersonally, at their job, financially. In our work at the personal level, we see lots of post-traumatic stress symptoms, but more long-term, we see important health consequences. So anxiety, depression, physical pain, substance use disorders. There's no one way that a traumatized person behaves, but they can experience dysregulation in their nervous system. So sometimes they're in a really hyperactivated state, playing out a fight or flight response. At other times, they're experiencing more numbness or disassociation, and they're not completely mindful or present.
Often, ACP participants have recently upended their lives in order to get away from an abuser. Some survivors need public benefits like food stamps and cash assistance, and low-cost health care through Medicaid in order to get back on their feet. If you work for the Office of Public Assistance, there's a very real chance that you may interact with an ACP participant. How can you help? ACP participants sometimes need help from the Child Support Enforcement Division as well. Although the parent of a participant's child is often the abuser that they've fled, a participant may still need child support in order to clothe, feed, and house their child or children. Before being enrolled in ACP, an applicant is strongly encouraged to meet with a local victim's advocate to create an in-depth safety plan.
The advocates are highly trained and ready to provide guidance and support as a survivor navigates their new life. In addition to enrolling in the Address Confidentiality Program, survivors should consider an order of protection or a formal parenting plan or divorce to allow for the protection of their children, and ongoing support from a domestic violence program to help them rebuild their life is available and important.
There may be free legal help available for people who need to keep their address safe. If you have any questions about the Address Confidentiality Program or your rights, it's always a good idea to talk to a lawyer. You can apply for free legal help from Montana Legal Services Association. You can do that online at ntlsa.org by calling our helpline or visiting an office in Missoula, Billings, or Helena.
If you work in state government or at the city or county level, what can you do to help the Address Confidentiality Program participants? Please be willing to accept the ACP mailing address and provide the requested services. Here is an example of how someone working in local or state government may encounter an Address Confidentiality Program participant.
Hi, how can I help you?
Hi, I need a driver's license.
If you could fill out this application with your name, date of birth, and your home address, that'd be great.
I'm afraid to use my home address. Can we use this ACP address instead?
Absolutely, we can do that. Let's get started.
An ACP participant may be coming into motor vehicles for a variety of services, including driver's licenses, identification cards, disability placards, and even vehicle titling and registration. Survivors of domestic violence have experienced great trauma in their life. And we as MVD employees in the Department of Justice are very interested in making sure that their interaction with us is empathetic and warm, and that we're able to provide them the service that they need.
Every day we interact with customers, and we have no idea what those customers' story is. We have no idea where they come from, what they've been through. So it's really important that we treat customers with respect and that we don't try to pry into the situation, but we're there if they need us for support.
Please think about the role you can play in helping these survivors and their families stay safe. Let's watch another interaction with an ACP participant.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm here to see if I can apply for food stamps and cash assistance.
Okay, I'd be glad to do an application for you. I'm going to need your name and address.
Oh, okay. I'm supposed to keep my home address secret, so is it okay if you use the address on my ACP card?
Yes, I can use that as a substitute. I'll be glad to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Be understanding if the participant's behavior seems unusual.
Survivors might exhibit anger, a flat affect, inappropriate use of humor, anything they can do to protect themselves from the shame and guilt that they're feeling. Sharing intimate details of a victimization can further aggravate PTSD, anxiety, depression, and other mental health conditions that arise from the abuse.
To avoid triggering someone, you can avoid asking them details of the event. You can avoid making light of the situation, and you can avoid comparing your own experiences to theirs.
I think we still have the perception that domestic violence is just a private affair between the husband and wife or partners. And really it's all of our problems because it does affect us. It affects us in the workplace. It affects the children in school. It is a major issue, and I think it's something that we all need to recognize, and that I think that we can all be a part of the solution.
One thing this video aims to accomplish is simply more awareness about the Address Confidentiality Program. Although program participants typically have no problem accessing services, they often have to explain what the Address Confidentiality Program is and why they are enrolled. If you know what ACP can do to help survivors, you'll be able to provide more compassionate service and refer survivors who may be eligible to participate. State and local government employees are just one group of people who can help strengthen the Address Confidentiality Program. Other community members can make a difference too. Please share this information with everyone who may be able to help.
If you're presented with an Address Confidentiality card, it's a good signal that somebody's probably experienced some pretty traumatic events. And just simply doing your best to be as kind, as helpful, and as calm as you can be goes a really long way, is really helpful.
If you or someone you know would benefit from enrolling in the ACP, please visit dojmt.gov/victims or call the Office of Victim Services toll-free at 1-800-498-6455.